أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لم يتخذ ولدا ولم يكن له شريك في الملك أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله. All praise and thanks due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the master of the universe and the earth, the master of my destiny and the destiny of all creation. Fellow Gambians, my dear compatriots, I greet you all as we usher in the new year. The dawn of a new year calls for stock-taking, collective recollection and renewal of our resolve for a better Gambia. I join you all in thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has brought us this far and continually bestowing His grace upon us and for guiding our great nation safely through all the challenges we have encountered over the last 2 decades. I reaffirm my commitment to work to ensure a secure future for our dear country and the generations yet unborn. Gambians at home and in the diaspora are conversant with the issues stalling our aspirations towards a better and vibrant country. 2015 was an extraordinary year in the growth and development of our country. We witnessed serious monetary and fiscal slippages that have made the livelihood of the average Gambian cumbersome and very dire. The country we inherited from generations is at a crossroads. Sadly, it has regressed in all spheres of our social, political, and economic spheres. Therefore, it is incumbent on us to realign the anomalies that plague our dear nation, the Gambia. Fellow Gambians, I feel your anguish, your frustration arising out of the current governance stalemate that has stunted economic growth and decent living and personal freedoms. Just look at poverty as reflected in food insecurity in our country. The Gambia imports $1.9 billion worth of rice. The 46,000 metric tons produced in 2015 is way below the 200,000 metric tons needed for food self-sufficiency. NEMA, FASDEP, and GCAF, which should have injected $130 million, that is about $5.2 billion in the agricultural sector, are now comatose. A year ago, we earned $3.4 billion on re-exports, while our domestic exports stood at $415 million. Our imports totaled $12.5 billion, creating a trade deficit of $8.7 billion. In the same period, 2014, growth in GDP slumps to 0.5%. Ministry of Finance officials tell me that our trade deficit is projected to be $3.4 billion. In fact, now it's gone all the way to $4 billion. As a result, domestic borrowing, which is in excess of $10 billion, will continue to overbloat. This is just not sustainable. It is estimated that about 40% of Gambians are living on an income of less than $1,000 a day. Now, less than $1,000 a month instead. This is less than the cost of a bag of rice and only about 4 kilos of meat and bones. Life has become progressively more unbearable for the majority of Gambians since Yahya Jammeh took over 20 years ago. Under my leadership, GMC is poised to help restructure Gambia in all spheres of national development and put it back in the track of prosperity in order to regain its former glory as a member of the civilized world. Gambia in 2015 was entrenched in a cocoon of economic and diplomatic isolation, and the masses, not the APRC leadership, are feeling the brunt of the wanton and ill-advised public policy decisions that brought economic activity to a grinding halt. I will not promise miracles, but will surely employ an economic package that will comprehensively stem the tide of our economic contraction and stabilize the country for sustainable growth and development. This endeavor is complex and calls for innovative solutions and sacrifice by the polity. Our macroeconomic framework will be based on attainable objectives and sustainable practices that will propel the Gambia from a low-income country to a middle-income economy in the medium term. A stable economy has to address the demand and supply side nuances of the economy, thereby bringing the macro aggregates to a sustainable equilibrium under a judicious and fair legal environment that supports growth and competition. Key among the reforms that I will propose are as follows. Number one, civil service reform and tenure. We are going to downsize government payroll, particularly security services. The current ratio of security personnel to the general population is at an all-time high, and this is taking away much needed resources from our social sectors such as education and health. Number two, public health, public debt and balanced budgets. Fiscal dominance within the macroeconomic framework has created high deficits which resulted into unsustained public borrowing. This has basically rendered the exchequer insolvent by hiking our debt-GDP ratio. A high debt-to-GDP ratio takes away much needed resources from priority areas such as education, health, agriculture. My administration will find a long-term solution to our festering debt crisis, and it starts with converting the 360-day Treasury bill into medium-term bonds of at least 5 to 7 years maturity. Basically, this accords us a breather by refinancing our debt obligation with longer maturity profile, but this in itself is not going to tame the debt burden. Fiscal prudence in the form of balanced budgets and strict fiscal legislations to curb discretionary and unauthorized expenditure will be the caveat needed to tame deficit financing. Interest will remain high as long as government continues borrowing. Point number three, investment in social sectors such as health and education. Education, the pride and joy of any government, is the well-being and education of its citizenry. Investing in these sectors have been lagging behind. For this reason, our healthcare delivery system has not lived up to expectation, and our public school system has shown below average students who cannot make gainful employment in the labor market. 4. Revision of the tax code. Our tax code has undergone significant overhaul in the last few years, but it did not go far enough to resolve the structural remedies inherent in our tax administration. The tax and spend policy of the current administration has shrunk economic activity and stifled growth. 5. Establishment of permanent commercial courts for dispute resolution and quick arbitration. Investor confidence boosts foreign direct investment into destination Gambia, and this has been weakened in recent times by a blurred political environment that has utter disregard of property rights and investor protection. GMC advocates for the establishment of permanent commercial courts to settle disputes and protect investor rights, as investment is the bedrock of economic growth and prosperity. 6. Independent monetary management, especially as it relates to foreign exchange. Sound monetary management is key to economic growth. Monetary policy and its indices are strong barometers of good economic management. GMC will respect the Central Bank Act by allowing our central bank professionals and experts unrestricted monetary policy execution devoid of government interference. The monetary slippages witnessed in 2014 and most of 2015 are as a result of the intermittent involvement of government in fixing foreign exchange rates. Often the market punishes the economy for the ill-advised decisions to interfere with market forces. GMC will advise the current government to lift the restriction on foreign exchange trading, as Gambia operates a flexible foreign exchange regime that allows the dollar to fluctuate based on its economic performance. I will remind this administration that they cannot have their cake and eat it. We cannot have a cheap dollar if all our economic fundamentals are at disarray. 7. Youth development initiatives to combat employment and destitution. The biggest travesty for the Gambia is our lackluster efforts in creating youth employment or entrepreneurial development over the years. This anomaly predates 1994, but youth population has since expanded twofold. Going by the last census data, the Gambia has a high youth population, the bulk of which are unemployed due to inadequate or poor skills to meaningfully partake in the labor market. GMC has made a pledge to make youth development a pivotal agenda in our administration. This will entail business incubation centers, mentorship and placement programs, and sustainable funding initiatives to bolster youth employment and economic inclusion. The youths are supposed to be the driving force of our economic engine, and we therefore need to lubricate their dreams and aspirations by creating avenues for them to thrive. 8. Promotion of the real productive sectors such as agriculture, tourism, and fisheries. More taxation would not lead us to economic growth. And the only way for us to grow is by investing in our real productive sectors. Agriculture's potential is yet to be harnessed because the policies employed to date by this administration have been haphazard and not congruent with our collective goals. The missing link in our agricultural policy includes the development of an agricultural bank with longer financing tenure and export-oriented agribusiness models. Furthermore, GMC will advocate for strong linkages between agriculture and tourism to help support the agricultural output of the economy and improve farmers' livelihoods. Fisheries have been underutilized, and value-added processing is now done offshore in fishing boats, thereby leaving the Gambia out of the development associated with the fishing boom. My administration will encourage investors to transfer skills to indigenous Gambian fishermen by training them on modern fishery methods. We will also invest in boosting our surveillance capacity to ward off poachers from our territorial waters. 9. Stronger bilateral commercial ties with Senegal. The bond that binds the Gambia and Senegal are very unique, and we are yet to harness fully the dividends inherent in such a relationship. Due to our geopolitical exigencies, the Gambia needs to enter into long-term bilateral commercial arrangements with Senegal, including in the area of power supply to our border towns as espoused by the West African Power Pool Accord, the WAP Accord. The growth and development of our transit trade, our re-export to third countries, certainly depend on the cooperation of Senegal, and it is therefore important for any administration to maintain good ties with our brotherly nation. GMC's first order of business in its first 100 days in office is to revitalize our fraternal ties with our immediate neighbors. Number 10, enactment of Freedom of Information Act to allow citizens public access documents as it relates to procurement, tender of public resources, etc. The public's right to know as it relates to procurement, tender of public resources, and terms and conditions of our mineral endowments will be made public and also open for public scrutiny. GMC believes in an open society that empowers the polity to partake fully in the affairs of the state. The general public has a vested interest and a vested right in the management and administration of public funds and resources, and as a government, we should be open to share and be questioned by vested parties, including the governed. 2016 is poised to be an interesting year for the Gambia as we head to the polls to decide the future of this great nation. The prerequisites are not in place for credible elections to take place. A result that will deliver a clear verdict within the one man, one vote principle, the equitable use of public resources, and equitable access to state media. I therefore call on the Independent Electoral Commission and it's supposed to be its illegal chairman, Mr. Mustafa Carroll, to follow the footsteps of the Independent National Electoral Commission of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, whose duty to country superseded that of an individual. Furthermore, the diasporan participation, as enshrined in Sections 11 and 141 of the Elections Act, must be factored in as they constitute an important voting bloc and their role in sustaining the socio-economic activity of the country via remittances and investments locally. Our position in elections remains unchanged. We must not make the mistake of 2011. That was why we created G6. G6 was created subsequent to our analysis of 2011 elections, and it is premised on the principle that without comprehensive electoral reforms, we will not be able to have credible elections in our country. What we witnessed a few months ago by Act number 6 of 2005, that is the Elections Act Amendment, was a further containment of dictatorship, creating a de facto one-party state which totally failed to take a single point of consideration of the concerns of the opposition elements. That is why I'm going to read verbatim from page 4 of a document prepared by the government opposition on 11th of May 2015, addressed to the Independent Elections Commission together with the government. Page 4 states that the opposition has been pushed into a vicious corner to either boycotting elections and be damned, or participate in elections and be damned. And caught in this loss-loss situation, it would be disingenuous to continue to contest every election with our hands and feet tied, and then come out of elections complaining of electoral misconduct. This is the consensus of all the opposition parties demanding for change with regards to our elections code and the way elections are conducted in our country. The page 4 of our document of 11th May 2015 reflects our common position, which has not been changed by our collective body, that going for elections under current exigencies does nothing except legitimize a de facto one-party state. A GMC-led government will restore law and order, respect for people's and individual rights, right of assembly and expression. On this first duty of the new year, I want to pay special tribute to the gallant fallen heroes of the Gambia for their invaluable sacrifice on behalf of country. To the women of this great nation, a hearty thank you for coping with the difficult economic environment, and as you hit the farms and the markets on a daily basis to put food on the table for your families. To the youths of the Gambia, my sincere apology on behalf of all and sundry for failing your expectations, leading to the undesirable journey taken by many across the desolate deserts and the perilous Mediterranean Sea in search of better opportunities you have been denied home by this administration. For those young Gambians that perish in the back way to Europe in search of greener pastures, we pray for their souls to rest in peace. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His infinite mercy grant them Jannatul Firdaus. Amen. My own blood nephew, Faraba Drame, was among those who lost their lives in the back way to Europe. I feel the pain of our youth, and I cry with you. I hereby make a firm commitment to the families of those who perish along the back way, that the death of your children shall not be in vain. We shall not rest, nor shall we give up until we conquer all of the factors that deny them opportunity, freedom, and dignity in their own country. We shall end this administration and restore our nation on proper track. The youths who are still with us, I just want to assure you that help is near, and by God's grace, inshallah, by God's grace, we will alleviate the condition of our youth folks soonest. This commitment is a quid pro quo arrangement that calls for an action on reserve reciprocity between GMC and youth folk. GMC is a mirror image of the average Gambian youth, as they constitute the heart and soul of this great party. This solemn commitment I make today will be honored when I become the President of the Republic of the Gambia and Commander-in-Chief of our country. fellow Gambians, and my dear compatriots, as I take this opportunity, this opportune moment to address the nation, I will also implore my fellow political operatives and leaders to self-regulate the political environment, as none of our political ambitions is worth the blood of any of our countrymen, women and children. The improvement of their lives and living conditions ought to be our primary motive and the driving force of our quest for political power and leadership ambitions. The passage and extension of I'd like to congratulate National Assembly for passing the FGM, irrespective of political affiliation. I will single out GAMCOP and its leaders, Dr. Isaac Toure and Mrs. Chisaho, who chose to go to jail and against all odds in pursuit of their belief for safeguarding our daughters from the horrors of the blade. I'd also like to thank my dear sister and friend, Nena Bojang of Norway, and all the entire team who have been actively on the vanguard of this struggle in the diaspora, making the message very clear that a practice so barbaric ought not continue to bedevil the lives of our young girls. To the international community, particularly our immediate neighbor and brother, the Republic of Senegal, I want to thank you immensely for providing sanctuary and refuge to Gambians and others running away from oppression and persecution in our country. I had the opportunity to launch an appeal directly to my brother President Macky Sall and his government to care and protect our citizens in Senegal during my meeting with foreign diplomats and the international media on the 15th of December 2015. I will renew this call to President Macky Sall and his government and the entire population of Senegal to welcome and receive our people who are running away from oppression, who are running away from dictatorship, who are running away from a reign of terror. Welcome them in their midst to facilitate the acquisition of their papers for them and to make Senegal a second home, the home of Teranga for Gambians as well. For the multilateral agencies, the GMC wants to reassure our steadfastness and commitment to existing accords and commitments entered into by the government of the Gambia. Once again, I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to each and every Gambian, irrespective of political affiliation, tribe or socio-economic orientation. We are one Gambia, one people, bound by a common destiny for a better nation. Happy New Year, and I assure all that we have better days to come. So long, and Godspeed. Inshallah, there is no law powerful enough in its application between me and my God-given birthright to participate at elections in my own country. President Jammeh, let me say this in the best way that I can. To hell with your laws of political exclusion, discrimination, and victimization. Every day has a night, and the darkest night must slowly break into a dawn of daylight. Surely, the eagle shall land. Allah baraka, jerejef, jarama, imite chane, njoko jarama. Thank you all from Khartoum to Koina and from Bara to Amdallah. Happy New Year.